Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we are here on Monday, 6 a.m. Central Time, and talking about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BC, and it's all about sharing enigmatic wisdom and wisdom that we maybe have lost in the pursuit of logic. And so the Tao Te Ching, even though everybody, I think, knows this deep down, I think we're all living a bit under the influence of the way society has positioned logic and has positioned a lot of benefit, right? Like you can see that, of course, we want to uplift people and we want to make people feel good. But where we want to go is putting people down or oppressing people, we often stand up for that. We stand up for the oppression of others or lower taxes because we want to be rich. And so we don't want the rich overly taxed. And if we want to go there, we support those things, right? We want businesses in our areas. So we support low taxes for businesses and stuff, even though that ultimately hurts us because the government needs to be able to support people without thinking of profit, and yet we try and privatize things. But we do that. We do that in school, right? We want to be nice to somebody, but then we see that they're being bullied and everybody is backing the bully. And so he's like, oh, we want to be popular like the bully, and so we're going to bully people. You know, this is a logic and a group mentality that we really have to start moving away from. Logic really depends on the group because, well, we're all going to do things the same way. That's logical. It's logical to spell things out and go, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, this is a structure that we're living within, this is the way we're going to educate people, this is the way we're going to create a consumer society, this is the way we're going to, this is what we're going to value in our society and all of these things. And all of that closes us off to, the myriad of other options. I don't know why, but I'm thinking about it. Someone called me yesterday, a friend of mine, and she told me that, someone was getting on a bus with her and was like, oh, ladies first. And she said, no, you go first. And he's like, no, ladies first. And I don't know how aggressive or how standoffish all of this turned out to be, but she called me expecting me to be like, yes, you were in the right. And although, yes, she very well may have been in the right, but her argument was that he was taking away my ability to choose. And I said, well, you did that first. You took away his ability to choose because he was saying ladies first. And you said no. And then he said no. And and so like you got into this sort of standoff trying to get on the bus. And she even mentioned the bus driver was looking at us like, and I was like, I don't know what actually happened. I know what you assume happened. I know what you experienced happening, but knowing you, right? And I know that she plays the victim a lot. She's here playing the victim again. Now, how does that relate to, logic and moving towards the group and stuff? Well, I think her argument is very much coming from the place that she believes she has more rights than he does because she's a woman. And that's something that's kind of moving through society a bit, where it's like, I feel like I've been oppressed, so you have to listen to me. And although there is truth in that to some extent, there is logic that is the logic behind it, especially when it comes to getting on a bus, I think is really, it gets out of hand sometimes. And she has a grievance and she's right to stand by that grievance. But it's not necessarily, she's not having the same experience he is, and he's not having the same experience she is. They did. Even Julie just asked if they got on the bus. Yes, they did, and she had to get on first. Like he stood his ground, and I was like, I told her she could have not gotten on the bus. She could have just walked away. Like, I don't know. It's like it was such a big deal for her, you know. And I understand. Like, she started. I don't like men coming, you know, following me. I don't like men coming behind me. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, again, you could have not gotten on the bus. If he doesn't want to, you know, like, you do have options, you know. So it's always a tough thing once you find a grievance in the world, right? And when you feel like you have the right to do something right, this is where we get the Karens and all of that kind of stuff. Once you pick up the grievance, once you make a stand, now there's going to be a winner and a loser. And she even expressed she felt like she lost. And I'm like, this isn't about that. You know, and this is where logic starts to come into place. And this is where we lose sight of the reason logic is there. Logic is there to hold things in a certain container. But that container isn't the only way to go about it. And your perspective and your experience and your perception of how things aren't necessarily the only ones that are existing, even at the same time, even as you experience it. Like when you make a stand somewhere, if someone else decides to make a stand, you're going to take, like, your stand is now being challenged. You know, and the Tao talks about that a lot. It talks about, you know, this idea of, like, once you create a structure for yourself, once you create a rule that other people have to stand by, as soon as they don't do that rule, as soon as they don't concede to the rule that you created for them, well, then you're being challenged. Right? This is a big aspect of our world today, where it's like we want to create this experience where we're right. And if you don't listen to me, then you're wrong. And even if there is room for me to adjust, I might not want to adjust simply because I have a right to be right. Right? I have a right to stand up for myself. I have a right to not accept your, you know, telling me to get on the bus first or whatever. I have a right to not accept your gift. And it's like, well, you do have a right to not accept your gift, but just like they have a right to offer it. And you both can, you know, hit the standoff at that point. Now you can be like, well, I'm not accepting your gift. Well, I'm giving you a gift. Well, I'm not accepting it. Well, I'm giving it. Well, both of you just walk away, not having achieved anything, you know. And if you both walk away, then maybe you win because you didn't have to take the gift. And so maybe he doesn't have to walk away. Maybe you can walk away from him, but you have to concede it. And that's why the Tao talks about yielding all the time. Yield this. Ladies first. Okay, whatever. Get on. Ladies first. I don't want to get on. Okay. Well, then I'm not going to get on until you get on. Well, then don't get on. Whatever. However it works out. This is why we talk about yielding. Chill out. You know, like, one of the things is, I don't want to be told what to do. You know, okay, well, if you don't want to be told what to do, as soon as someone tells you what to do, don't do it. Don't tell them no, just don't do it. Don't try and get them to realize what they've done, because they haven't done anything to you. You just don't want to do what they say. You know, like I told my friend yesterday, I was like, I wasn't there, so I don't know what his intentions were. And really, you don't know what his intentions were either. You can't. You can only assume you know what their intentions were, and that is a grievance to you. So I can't really take that into too much consideration. I can only give you so much credit, because you have an idea of what was happening. And if you have an idea of what was happening without being in that other person's body, well, you're still making it up. It's still something that's coming from you. It's still your perception. If you perceive the world as a threat, and if you perceive other people as wanting to tell you what to do, then you're going to see the world that way. I went with a random number generator. Today, I don't know what I'm talking about this morning. I don't know. Just went off on that, I suppose. I wanted to talk about this idea of logic and how logic has taken us to a certain point in our society where we don't always fight for what's best for us. First of all, there's no group that is going to get you what you want in your life. You have to go and get that. And that doesn't necessarily mean you separate yourself from society, but you have to recognize that no group is going to be able to get you what you want. You can't trust that necessarily, especially in a world of logic. Julie, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Can you hear me okay?
Sure.
Can you hear me all right?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I'm good.
Just checking the equipment.
Okay. Are you setting up a new studio?
No, God, no, nothing that exciting. Just checking that things are working, giving them an old 1-2. I really like your story though, because all that came to me as you were telling me the story wasn't really the perceptions of either your friend or the person letting them on the bus, not even the bus driver or any of the passengers on the bus, but how they lost sight of what they were doing.
Right.
They lost sight of getting on the bus.
Right. And what their sights were firmly on, I have a rule, or I'm having an experience or I'm making a choice, or whatever it was. And everybody around me needs to concede to that choice that I've made for myself.
Yeah, they need to adapt work with me. They need to do what I perceive they should be doing,
right?
For me to be able to uphold my beliefs, my ethics, my morals, my whatever.
Right. And
that's nothing to do with getting on a bus.
My own person, like you're going to get on ladies first, and then it's like, no. Well, all of a sudden, the person who's saying ladies first is being challenged, and they don't want to be challenged, and so they're going to say, no, ladies first, right? Like, I know, and again, I wasn't there, so I don't know how aggressive it was, or how creepy it was, or how, whatever, if it was at all. Like, this person could very easily get creeped out by any number of things, and her perception of the world is that it is a threat. So
but their perception makes our experience.
Right. So whether or not that was actually the case, and I told her that. I told her, look, I'm hearing your side of the story, and so it's not the truth, it's just what you experienced. And so that has nothing to do with this other person. So I can't speak to what that other person is doing. Yeah. But, I mean, you have the right to say no to something, but you could have just not gotten on the bus.
Absolutely. What was the goal? What was the purpose of you being there in that time, in that space, was to get on the bus. So
right. And if all of a sudden the argument of ladies first becomes more important than getting on the bus, which it did, then don't get on the bus.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just It was a total sway of the activity of the day, wasn't it, really? Quite interesting.
This reminds me.
What about if this person had said, you go first, without addressing ladies first, or anything like that? Do you know what I mean? Was it the wording that was alerting your friend, or was it, there's so many things to be drawn from that, but all of it took away from actually getting on the bus.
Right. And both of them stood there for the other. And it's like both of you are children now. Like you're both holding on to this silly idea.
They're playing a game. They're playing a ball. They're catching a ball. They are interacting with each other and oblivious to bus passengers and everyone else, bus driver. They are all oblivious now to them because their focus is on the game that they're playing, the catching of the ball. Yeah. Right.
This reminds me of 2 Tao chapters. There's and I can't remember one of them. I'm going to try and remember one of them. But one of them is number 49, illusion of separateness. So she is this person who wants to get on the bus. There's no separateness there. She is this person.
Yeah.
She is experiencing this person from her perspective in the way that she needs to see something about herself.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we all do that. We all do that continually.
We all do that.
Day in, day out. Yes. Yeah.
And this is the illusion of separateness. And this is number 49. And I'd love to go through this one with you unless you have a number specific.
No, that's fine. We'll do 49.
Okay.
We'll go with the flow.
So the master has freed herself from separateness. She opens herself to receive from all beings. So if we were to take, that's just that first line. If we were to take that first line and apply it to this, if my friend was the master. Okay, so if Julie is out there, I would love for you to join me again, and we'll continue to look at number 49. And yes, Julie, I forgot. I think when I was cutting out, you're like, your Wi-Fi. And I was like, oh, you're breaking up. And then I realized, no, that's me.
Yeah. I was trying to kind of let you know gently.
It was. Well, I just forget.
It is what it is, Martin John. It is
What's
what
that?
it is.
It is what it is. So here we are, number 49. We're talking about my friend and the bus and all of these things. And the first line of 49.
You first, Martin John. You first.
The first line of this 49, and this is the one that this is one of the 2 that it reminded me of, and I can't think of the line that the other one reminds me of, but if I can, I'll bring that one up too. So the master has freed herself from separateness. She's open to receive from all beings. If my friend was a master, she'd be open to receive. Whether that is receiving the argument or receiving the invitation to get on the bus. It continues, when she encounters sincerity, she responds in kind. In the face of duplicity, her sincerity remains. When she encounters goodness, she responds in kind. In the face of evil, her goodness remains. Why should she change for the manifestation? She knows the manifestation is an illusion of separateness. Beyond that, there is only one. That is a great verse for this scenario.
Yeah, it is absolutely awesome, actually, because your friend's approach to the offer of going first was met with mistrust,
right.
I'd say, which is, obviously it's come from nurture for her or experience that she may have had before or just a feeling that she has. She might feel uncomfortable, but she's placed that feeling into that fresh experience. So she's not really, meeting, say, kindness with kindness or sincerity with sincerity. She's now already judged it to be uncomfortable. So she's now meeting it with uncomfortable.
Right. She thinks it is him taking her choice away, and so she takes his away.
Yeah, that's what she's doing. She's meeting it with what she believes she's receiving.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what it says here is when the master, if my buddy was a master, which she obviously isn't, but that's okay. Neither am I. I'm not trying to say that. Yeah. When she encounters sincerity, she responds in kind. In the face of duplicity, her sincerity remains.
Yeah.
Like, Okay. Get on the bus first. Okay, no problem. Just go on, get on, do my thing. Now, or like there could be a million of other ways of sincerely meeting that. You know, you don't necessarily have to concede to someone else telling you what to do. Again, you don't have to get on the bus. But if that's your goal, just do it.
Yeah, why is there an issue with being told what to do sometimes?
Right.
Where's the issue with that? People will offer you instruction all of the time. Everywhere in your life, they will offer you instruction. They'll tell you what to do.
And you're carrying around instruction from other people from your childhood in your mind anyway. It's not like you're the one making the decision.
Exactly. So you still have choice. Even when somebody is instructing you or telling you what to do, you still do have choice. They don't take the choice away from you by offering you that instruction. Right. They create your capacity to choose. They create that.
When we talk about Tao, so there's so many of these that are like, look, this isn't you doing it anyway.
Oh.
Right? And so this is Tao. And that means that the argument that you're going to come up with, that's Tao too. This is exactly what you need, right? This is exactly what you need to move towards becoming a master, to move towards being aligned with Tao. And if this were what a master, and when we talk about master, we really talk about like, you know, at least for someone who has read and is associated and looks at the Tao as being the ultimate sort of this is where I want to move towards. If that is the case, then someone who is aligned with Tao is going to concede, is going to yield to that rather than you know, there's a lot of talk in the Tao also as around the idea of being rigid, you know, rigidity of any kind, right? We talked about that, I think, 2 days ago. Rigidity of any kind is a companion of death. So her rigidity and his rigidity, and both of them standing there. If I was the bus driver, just close the door and drive off. Fuck them both.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever. You guys figure it out and catch the next one.
Yeah,
have a good day.
Your concern is not actually getting on the bus; it's the interaction you're having with each other.
That's right.
I'm off. Yeah,
I'm here to drive a bus.
That's it.
I'm not here to wait for you to argue.
Very funny.
You know,
what would they have done in that situation? They'd have been a bit like surprised.
They would have both been chuffed. They would have just been like, "Oh, we missed them." They would have both then turned their anger on the driver, and then they would have probably become Now they both were to have the same enemy, right? Then the bus driver would then become an enemy, and they would have to become friends.
Yeah, the perspective of missing the bus.
Yep. Just because neither of them wanted to get on.
It's so funny, isn't it? It's so funny.
And I bet if he were to have closed the door, they both would have like knocked on the door. He would have opened it, and they both would have gone on without even thinking about it.
Yeah, and they bumped into each other in the way because nobody's waiting for anyone to miss the bus now.
That's right.
Now it's all about them, not like an etiquette that we rely on, which is I think is the one that you may want to look at, the etiquette of waiting.
Oh yeah, we could look at that one.
That would be quite awesome.
That's the dissolution of Tao. I think that's the title of it.
I think that one fits it really well. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you very, very much for giving me a scenario that isn't my own.
Yeah. That was really nice. I you know, and that one fits so well.
Yeah.
That one fits so well to what we're talking about. Like every section of this, right? The master has freed herself from... This is just the facts of the master. She opens herself to receive from all beings. My friend obviously was not open to receiving from this person.
Yeah.
You know? When she encounters sincerity, she responds in kind. In the face of duplicity, her sincerity... And like that just... Like when I read that without a scenario, without a true scenario, it lands well, but like, oh yeah, like
Isn't it
this
lovely
is the
to
difference
interpret
between,
it?
what was that?
It's lovely to interpret it into daily kind of things that we do every day. So
Right.
things that we can really affiliate with. When you do that with the verse, it makes it more easy to absorb and think about during your own day. Right. So like from this morning, when I talk to other people, I'll be well aware of their perspectives as well.
Yeah, what am I encountering and how am I responding?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So that'll go with me throughout my day today. And all because your friend didn't want to get on the bus when she was told. How wonderful.
And that's the thing. Like what it says here is when she encounters sincerity, she responds in kind. In the face of duplicity or sincerity remains. Why? Because she is a sincere person. Right? Yeah. And then later on it says, why should she change for the manifestation? Is my friend sincere? No. By no stretch of the imagination would I consider my friend who had this interaction sincere.
Yeah.
But she would never consider herself a bitch.
Yeah.
Right? But, I would argue that, like, like, if you are who you are and you're responding as a bitch or you're responding as, if you're responding with force, then that's what you are, is this who you are? Or are you doing that simply because of what he said? And if you're doing it simply because of what he said, then you're changing for the manifestation.
Yeah.
You are responding specifically because the manifestation presented you with something and you are changing because of the manifestation. You're changing yourself because of the manifestation, because of what you're experiencing, rather than being who you are. And I remember years and years ago thinking about this and thinking about this idea of like, be who you are regardless of how the world presents itself.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be something different for the manifestation, then the manifestation has its control over you completely, because you can be whatever. If the manifestation treats you with kindness and then you treat the world with kindness, and then the manifestation treats you like dirt and you treat the world like dirt, like why? Who are you then?
I've done that, Martin John. I have done that. I have been through moments of, such wonderfulness. And I feel so fluffy and nice, and I want to kiss everybody on the planet, and I want to give all my time and energy to everyone because they're all fluffy and wonderful. And sometimes they're all a bunch of bastards.
Yeah.
I hate them all.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't change a hair for them. I wouldn't want to do anything. No, I want to be actually quite horrible about them. And that's being affected. That's being influenced by the manifestation and changing who you are as a core person. Because you'll feel that in yourself as well. Whatever you're behaving, you will know that it is slightly different to the feeling of existence that you have. That's you, the being.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why, why I talk so much about recovering yourself, because it's like, why should you change just because you're interacting with someone that's not being nice to you?
It's hard work as well, Martin John.
Fuck all,
I'm not really keen for that.
It's definitely hard work. But, and this is where the question, who are you?
Yeah.
Are you just, who you became after the last meal you had, after the last interaction you had, after, this is why I tell people, about this thing called, segment intending. We all know about intention, right? We have intention about like going, but segment intending, this is what I did for many years. I don't really do it much anymore, but it's a great exercise of having an intention for different segments of your day. So you wake up and the morning segment is, before breakfast, that time that you're going to exist before you kind of settle in to have a cup of tea or whatever. It might just be, 45 minutes or whatever of just waking up. What do you intend to do during this time? And then there's the time that you're drinking your coffee, tucking into breakfast. It's kind of like, okay, well, what am I going to intend here? And then there's the next segment of your day. And every day seems to have, and you can segment them as like morning, afternoon, evening, or you can segment it like this, where it's like, hey, every hour or two, I have a different segment. I'm working on this project, or I'm working in the garden, or I'm going for a walk, or I'm interacting with my neighbor. What is my intention for this? And when we go into a new section of the day with an intention, we start to realize that our intentions are very similar. And there are things that are important to us. We start to figure out who we are.
Also, kind of reminds me a little bit of mindfulness as well. Mindfully sectioning your day, mindfully being aware and becoming, it's almost like getting to know yourself really well, isn't it?
It is. It's a beautiful exercise that I really appreciate, and I appreciate the what it gave me in terms of mindfulness and in terms of being able to be calm during the day, because I think
I need this, Martin John. I need to implement this in my day. It's a good one.
It is
a little gem.
It is good. Yeah, segment intending is, and I'm going to continue talking about this just for a little bit. I know you just dropped down, but segment intending is a wonderful way, and I mean I don't give advice and I don't give people things, but this is something that I did that really helped, and I got it from Abraham Hicks. If you guys are familiar with them, and it's a beautiful way of being able to be mindful about and when you write stuff down. So you could do it just by thinking about it, but I carried like a little pocket notebook with me, and I would write down, I intend to be calm while I interact with this next person or whatever. And I might even do that a little bit today now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, I woke up this morning and I saw that, something sort of stressed me just a little bit. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to write down, and I'm doing this. I'm doing my Panda Planner today. I'm planning my day because I'm not going to be working on the mosaic today or tomorrow. And so I'm going to meet someone for coffee, and then I got to get some grocery shopping done. I got to make sure that, I keep myself active and stuff. So there's all these things that I got to do today. And if I were to approach all those with this segment intending, while segment intending, so segment my day. So this is a segment of my day, right? Tao of the day. So I'm gonna intend to connect with people. I'm gonna intend to be inspired. I'm going to intend to connect with people with inspiration, right? I'm going to connect with people while being inspired. So that's my intention for this segment of my day. And if I were to segment my day, earlier, maybe I would have remembered to put on the internet, right? But either way, right? I'm going to also intend not to judge myself, right? I'm going to intend these things. So I'm going to be able to be present, with you, and be able to be present with myself during this segment of my day. The next segment of my day is going to be in between this and the coffee I'm going to have with my friend, right? And so that's going to be the next segment of my day. And what am I going to intend for that? Right? And as we do this, as I did this when I was younger, this allowed me to not let the manifestation dictate who I needed to be. I didn't allow myself to get swept away with the manifestation. And so if something presented itself to me, I still had an intention that I was trying to abide. I still had an intention that I still wanted for myself. And so that intention takes precedent over my current situation with the manifestation, however the manifestation wants to present itself. And because the manifestation is going to present itself however it's going to present itself, my intention is altering how I'm going to see the world, how I am going to interpret what it is I'm experiencing. So there is only an illusion of separateness. You're connected to everything. And if you utilize segment intending, are you ever going to segment intend? I am going to intend to be a dick. I'm going to intend to get angry. I'm going to intend. Now, if you intend to be calm and cool and you intend to be relaxed, and this is probably a really good exercise because I know a number of the people that I talk to on here are teachers. This would be great for those, because your day is segmented anyway, around classes, around schedules, and around all sorts of stuff. So you can create an intention for a specific segment of your day. And you will, when you do this, when you do segment intending, you will be able to recognize, oh, there are a couple, like if you're a teacher, let's say. Again, it's hard to talk to everybody because everybody's different. But if you're a teacher, and if you're not a teacher, you can still recognize this in your daily life. And somebody gets under your skin, and you're going to see them in the next segment of your day. You can be kind about that. And you can be like, oh, I'll be kind, and I'll listen, or I'll be open. I'll be open to hearing this from a new perspective. I'll be open to understanding where they're coming from. I'll be calm when they interrupt. I won't have to speak over them. Little things like that, because you're already predicting what's happening. And that's going to give you awareness that you're making judgments. Now that can bring you to a whole nother level of growth in your own life. Recognizing that there's an illusion of separateness is such an important part of, getting to a place of being healthy in your body. Because the world around you is showing you yourself. You're perceiving the world as you understand it understands you, how you believe, the frame of reference that you have for it and yourself in the world, right? So number 49, once again, it's entitled The Illusion of Separateness. It starts, the master has freed herself from separateness. She opens herself to receive from all beings. And that's a big deal. Like when we're talking about like my friend and her getting on the bus, like she wasn't willing to receive. Now, she did receive the argument. And that's what she needed to receive in order to grow, in order to hear, in order to get her to call me, to try and get me to get on her side and tell her she was right. And I couldn't do that. Because you're not right. There is no right. She's not a victim. So she received the lesson, and then she reached out to me and was able to, she wouldn't have reached out to me if she wasn't ready to question the lesson. She would have just, because she wrote a big post on social media, she said, I'm going to delete this post after we had talked. Because she realized that her argument is he's taking her ability to choose. Well, she took his, first. So why shouldn't he take hers? Why, what's the, There is no separation. You did something, he does something, and now nobody is who they are. Everybody is, standing on this image that they want to be. Everyone is standing and trying to be who they are, who they want to be seen as. So the master has freed herself from separateness. She opens to receive from all beings. When she encounters sincerity, she responds in kind. In the face of duplicity, her sincerity remains. When she encounters goodness, she responds in kind. In the face of evil, her goodness remains. Why should she change for the manifestation? And that's the big question. That's all we really need. Are you changing for the manifestation? Because if you are, why are you doing that? Why are you changing for the manifestation? No need to change for the manifestation. The manifestation is going to go about its business, and it's not going to care, and it's going to just steamroll over everything. So why would you change for the manifestation? The manifestation is just an illusion of separateness. Beyond that, there is only one. There's only one. There's only and I have to remind myself that all the time. You're not out there. I'm out there. And for you, I'm not out here. You're out here. What you're hearing is you. What I'm saying is me. And what I hear from you is me. And I get to embrace that. I get to embrace who I am and learn from that. Lisa, how are you? So, Lisa Solomon? So sometimes people are new to Noom Vibe and don't know how this works. So what I do is I talk about the Tao, and I invite you up to chat with me about what's going on and pick a number between 1 and 81 for this program. I choose 1 and 81 because there are 81 verses in the Tao Te Ching, which is the topic of this talk. What I would do when I bring someone up is give them about a minute before I take you off the stage. So you got about 10 seconds or so. So your mic might not be set up. You may have done that by accident. I did remove you from the stage. If you did want to talk, but your mic wasn't set up or whatever, you can go ahead and situate all that and then come back up, and I would be happy to chat with you, Lisa. But a lot of times it's just an error. It's just, especially people that are new to the app or haven't engaged. You did join me on stage so we can talk about the Tao, but no big deal. I hope you have a wonderful day. So yeah, number 49, the illusion of separateness. And I got 15 minutes, more or less, before 7 o'clock. So if anybody wants to come up, please do. I did pick a random number generator earlier before Julie came up, and I picked number 57. Now, I could search for the etiquette one, but that wasn't the one that was coming to mind. So for me, I do think that Julie has a point that the etiquette one is there, but that's about the dissolution of Tao. And maybe I can look up, because etiquette is brought up a number of times in the Tao. I don't know how to spell etiquette, so that makes it harder to find. I'm not good at the spelling. Etiquette, is it QU? It is etiquette. Okay, that's 18, out of touch with Tao. Disillusion of Tao, and that's it. It's the disillusion of Tao and out of touch with Tao. So that's interesting. Now that I'm just looking up etiquette, when out of touch with Tao, etiquette is observed, and that's blind loyalty is demanded. When Tao is lost, we lean on etiquette. When that fails, we turn to morality. When morality dissolves, we teach ritual. This is Oh, Stephanie, it has been a while since we've chatted. It's nice to see you here. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well.
Awesome. I just parked. I was like, because I'm headed to the swimming pool.
Oh,
and
good.
I was like, oh, good. He's not done yet, because if I can park and get on before you're done.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad.
Yeah,
And I'm as a Cancer, anybody celebrating water. Oh, that's
it's so much fun, because I notice, when people talk about meditation, I used to think it had to be a certain way. And then I learned that you can do it when you're walking or just even driving. Like you just get out of your brain. And so when I do laps, I'm just like, but it's funny because all these ideas come to you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have paper to write it down.
Yeah. I talk to people about that a lot, because everybody wants to capture those thoughts. And I always say, look, if it's real and it's good, and if it's real good and it's aligned with you, it'll come back.
Yes, that's true.
And you got to have faith. And that's the thing. It's I think, writing things down and all of this and trying to grasp at things, whether that's relationships or money or jobs or all this kind of stuff. It's like trying to grasp is really just exposing how little faith we have in ourselves and our journey.
Well, it's funny you say that. I read a book called It's Not Your Money by a woman named Tasha Silver.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, someone. It was. I know the book. I can't say that I liked it, but I know the book. I was told to read it, and I was like, okay, I did it. But so of the few books that I know, someone gave that to me. Yeah.
Okay,
years and years ago. Yeah.
So, I listen to it because I'm both. I like to read, and sometimes I don't like to read, and sometimes I like to listen, and I don't like to listen. But it's cool because I do both. Anyway, I listened to the book, and she was talking about, she would get these ideas. And one time she was at this coffee shop. Mm-hmm. She grabbed a napkin and started writing everything down. And then when she walked home, it was raining. And so getting disintegrated. But then she goes, she was devastated, but then she goes, no, if it's meant to be, it'll come back to me if I was meant to use that in the book or whatever. Yeah. And that's so true, right? But sometimes we still get caught up in this, that idea, that was such a great idea. Oh, I have to have it back. And then it's like letting it go and going, that's okay.
Yeah. But, I experienced that in many different ways. Like, one, dreams, you wake up, and I love that moment before you forget your dream.
Yeah.
Right? That moment when you're awake, but your brain hasn't woken up yet. Mm-hmm. Right? So your body is up and you remember it, and it's so vivid and it's so clear, and then you pee, and then you get out of the bathroom and you're like, I know I remembered so vividly, literally 2 minutes ago, and it's all gone now. Like, I can't even remember the theme or the place or any, and I love that about the experience of being alive, right? Like, there are parts of your body that remember, and they're not your brain. Because when your brain wakes up, you don't remember it. Mm-hmm.
Funny thing about that, I still remember certain dreams when I was a kid or teenager. And it's because that when I woke up, I ruminated on it and I kept thinking about it. And it then became into my imagination. And then, it's so cool that how our brains work once we attach it to our brains.
Once you attach it to your brain, right? So you can remember it in your body when you wake up. And here's the so I did a lot of work with lucid dreaming and stuff when I was getting early sobriety and stuff. And so it was either you wake your brain up like the frontal lobe kind of brain, right? The thinking brain. You wake it up while you're still asleep. So in your dream, meaning lucid dreaming. Or you teach your brain in the morning before, while it's waking up, you transfer that. It's kind of like a download from the body, let's say, from the deep brain to the more cerebral brain, as that starts to wake up. And that's the memory. That brain that wakes up is the identity of who you are, right? That's the you that goes to work. That's the you that takes care of the family. That's the you that has all the judgments. But there's that minute or two, before you move in the morning. And like I for myself, it's about movement. If I start to move my body, my brain starts to wake up faster. But if I can sit and ruminate, like you said, in bed, if I can just sit there and transfer and download that information from one part of my brain to the other, I can remember it. Mm-hmm. But it's such it's tentative because you're not. Those are parts of your body that you're not really in control of. They're in control of you. And so if you can be still in the morning before waking up your brain, you can transfer that. And that's what we do. And when we're kids, we have that freedom to just be in bed and just kind of like stay there for a longer period of time.
Yeah. Awesome. The number 13 came to me. So can we do the number 13?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, this one has come up a lot recently, and I think it's not anything to do with anything other than like, let's think about this from the grand scheme of like, what if this is happening a lot everywhere? Maybe politically, maybe, through markets and through the economic or consumer kind of world that we live in. The title of this is Finding Equality at the Extremes. To succeed and to fail are equally undesirable. Creation and destruction are equally present within us. What do I mean by to succeed and to fail are equally undesirable? The more success you have, the more you protect it by hiding failure. The more you associate with failure, the more you embody it. When neither success nor failure is identified as the destination, being becomes the objective. What do I mean by creation and destruction are equally present within us? Having a body and a mind with which I identify gets me identified and gets me involved in the manifestation. The manifestation convinces me of my actions, and so naming them, I both create and destroy, neither of which is unique. To see yourself with indifference, you will have faith for all things. To see the world with indifference, you will be able to care for it all.
Oh, that's so good. There was something you and Julie were talking about that reminded me, maybe how I interpreted it. I can't remember now, but like when you care too much or you put too much into it, it affects you deeper. But when you can just be more neutral.
Right.
Yeah. And it's interesting that I had family over yesterday, and it was I was tired after, and I realized there was some stuff that was said, some Christian love, quote unquote. So it was not the kindest, but it wasn't. It wasn't like extreme, but it wasn't. It was just like, oh, that was not nice, and
right.
it bothers me, But then I'm like, but that's all I can do is what I can only respond how it responds, and I can't control other people. I can just say things with kindness in my own, sorry, it's early in the morning.
No, please.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do. And so what I'm hearing, at least, and if I can make some, like, fill in some things. What your first interaction is like they're doing something and they think they're being nice. They think they're saying something that is loving And yet I see the error in what they're seeing, because what they're doing, are making some huge assumptions that I can see, but they are unable to see for some reason. And I recognize that they're doing their best. Their best is not my best. Go on.
It's funny because it wasn't, I use Christian love in quotes, just like, as like a joke, because there's no hate like Christian love. But it wasn't, they weren't saying it in loving ways, but they were thinking, it was more like a judgment. Anyway. But
well, that's what I thought. Like they're judging, and yet they don't recognize it as judging because they're coming from a high moral ground.
You're so good with this, with the words. Yes, it was like that. And I completely know where they're coming from. Like I did it too. Right. And, but as I'm starting to learn, it's like, oh, you just recognize these things quicker. And it's like, oh yeah. But I wasn't about to say, I mean, sometimes I say things, but sometimes I just let it go. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm still learning this.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, like when I have family members, well, like godparents, and they're close. Like I knew them when they were friends with my parents before I was born. Here I am, almost 50, so I've known them my whole life. And I went to have dinner at their house, 20 years ago or whatever was the last time I probably was there. And they made, some comments that could be described as racist. Mm-hmm. They are immigrants from Italy, right? Right. There is a big difference as to their expression and what, they're innocent because they're not, they don't really hold a lot of the same things, but you have to just sort of take it on the chin because they're definitely not aligned with Trump and stuff now, and so racism isn't something that they're hedging on, but they've made comments that were considered racist, and it's at some point you're like you don't even know what it is you're doing.
Yes.
And me explaining to you what you're doing is going to get you on your haunches, and you are going to be defensive, and there's nothing I can do but continue. You know what I mean? It's sort of like you're not no one's actually being offended by this. You wouldn't take this out on the street. You're not going to try and recruit people. You're harmless.
And it's funny because, when people say people are doing the best they can with what they have, and some people disagree, but I remember when I said some of this stuff, and I didn't have any idea. I had no clue. And I was doing the best with what I had. And then when people called me out, I was like, oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I would have people get offended at things I said. Because I was very just naive, and I had.
Right. No.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, okay. But other times I was like, what's their problem? So right. I also recognize when I was there and I was doing the best with what I knew. And so that's where it's like, okay, it just is.
We need to also recognize that if you are inspired to say something, say something. Mm-hmm. If you are not, don't.
Yeah.
If you are not inspired to say something, don't say anything. How could you, right? But if you go into every situation with listening in order to respond.
Right.
Right? So yeah. I am listening for an opportunity for me to tell people what I believe.
Yeah.
That's a very different approach than being inspired. You may think you're being inspired, and you may go out and say, well, just like you said, someone said I didn't know something and they taught me and I was grateful. That doesn't give you a mandate to teach the world what you were taught.
Right.
But if you're inspired to do that, That's coming from Tao, right? That's coming from, when we look at this line, right? What do I mean by creation and destruction are equally present with us? To have a body and mind with which I identify gets me involved in the manifestation. That's what we're talking about. You have a body and mind that gets you involved in the manifestation. What am I seeing? What am I experiencing out here in the world? What are my family members saying? And what is my responsibility there? And what is all of this? The manifestation convinces me of my actions, convinces me that my actions are correct. Because they're wrong. They're wrong, so my actions are correct. And I am going to teach them how to be right. And so naming that, like, this is my job now. My job is to put them in the right direction. My job is to teach them about where they're wrong. My job is to do this, right? Once I identify with the manifestation, I now have actions. And so naming them, I both create and destroy. What do I create? I create this chasm that I have to fill up, and I destroy my connection to myself, as we were talking about in, 49? We were talking about the ideas of, I gotta open 49 to remind myself of what it said. Of the illusion of separate, right? When she encounters sincerity, she responds in kind. In the face of duplicity, or sincerity remains. She is who she is, rather than changing who you are because of who you're around. Changing who you are because of the manifestation. You change, like, you create and destroy because you're involved with the manifestation. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's like, to see yourself with indifference, you could get to be who you are. It doesn't matter what is going on around you. It doesn't matter that your family is, saying the way, judging other people. It's like, yeah, okay. Like, you're judging other people. And this is probably not the best time to challenge that, right? I mean, with the world the way it is, and the separations the way they are currently in the country or wherever, right?
Yeah. It's funny you were saying that, or also when your emotions you get really riled up because you're like, I'm offended for other people, or I'm offended. And I've had that too. And I start getting like, and I'd either have to leave, or I knew that I would start going off. And I'm like, well, that's not helpful. And also, it can come off as self-righteous because it's just like, or it is something I want them to see the truth. But it's like,
that you see it. You want them to see your truth.
Yes. And so then it becomes this thing where that's not helpful, and it causes more division, or they just like, whoa, what's her problem? She got angry.
Yeah. Why don't you just accept their truth?
Yeah.
like, right? Like, if it's so important to you that they accept yours, well, I mean, if you think that they should, why don't you just accept theirs? And you're just like, oh, but they're wrong. Yeah. Exactly. So why should they accept yours if you're wrong? Right? Like, but then it's like we get on this high horse of like, no, but I'm the one that's right. Yeah. It's like, well, for you, And it's like we're going through this, and this is where having faith in that Tao, or having faith in God, or wherever you're going to put your faith, it's like, well, it's got to know better than I do. I'm not the one that needs to teach everybody in the world about like this is your job now, like teaching everybody on the planet like that you're right. like that's going to be exhausting.
And you see that a lot. Yeah. Oh my God. When I'm on Facebook, social media or anything, or just in general, there's so much of that. And like, it's so interesting to observe it at times. Cause I was raised to just be like, we have to tell everybody. And it's so funny now just being like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's funny. My dad we have a neighbor who's an atheist. And my dad will go, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't accept truth and blah, blah. And I'm like, Dad, you can't. It's okay. Like, he is where he is. But I also, they both get angry and riled up and start arguing. And neighbors, like, they've actually argued over the middle neighbor's lawn because they're like 2 doors down. Mm-hmm. And people come out and they're like, oh, those two are at it again. It's funny, but it's sad.
Well, they both have a flag to plant.
They do, yeah.
You know, like one has to plant his flag of God, one has to plant his flag of I don't know or whatever, or you can't know or whatever, you know, like, and it's like, all right, well, off we go. And that's their connection, you know, like, and until one realizes that they are themselves, right? That you are me looking at me, right? Once you realize.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I was just to say, what's really funny, though, very cool, very interesting, because if that were me having a screaming match with a neighbor, I would be like, not really want to engage with them anymore, right? But they will then get together. My dad will be like, oh, I'm going over to see him, and he's outside. And it's really neat because they can still interact, and they don't allow those angry tirades to really get to them. And I was like, well, that's really cool that you guys can still talk, and you know, I think they enjoy the fighting though. Like,
but well, yeah, of course, so like
funny.
it's, you know, it's let's take Tao into consideration here and be like, okay, well, you experience yourself in the world, right? Oneness. When there is something about yourself that you don't like, you think about it a lot. You focus on it. You give it attention. And that's what they're doing to themselves. Mm-hmm. Right? They're giving that part of themselves that they're not quite sure of. They're exploring. They're poking and prodding. They're actually doing healing work. They don't know it because, somewhere in their bodies they know it, but they don't recognize it consciously because it's not in their vocabulary. But what they're doing is exploring themselves.
Is it healing work if you don't eventually recognize it, though?
Yeah. Do you think, do you, if you were to crack a bone, but didn't know you cracked a bone, would it heal?
Yeah.
Same thing. Now, is it going to heal as well as if you paid attention to it and cared for it?
But wouldn't healing would also bring change? And if they get more angry and more argumentative over the years after doing this, instead of being like, oh, there's something here. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't.
Again, if you crack a bone and don't give it any attention, it will heal, but it's not going to heal as well as if you gave it attention. You may cause more problems.
Oh, I see.
Right? It may heal poorly. But it is still healing work.
I never thought about it like that.
Right? So what's happening is your neighbor and your dad are exploring themselves and are pushing some limits. And there is, like, you've probably known men who have done this until they've gotten in a physical fight. Mm-hmm. And after they get in that physical fight, there's a calm. And there's an understanding. And so it's not necessarily, right? Tao talks about the fact that Tao is patient, unlike men, right? So what you're doing is being like, oh, but this should move forward. Tao also says, when you look at Tao, progress doesn't always seem to advance. It's not all so conspicuous. But there is healing work. And what's happening is your dad and his neighbor are inquiring about themselves. They don't know they're doing it, but they're looking at another person and saying, you are showing me the part of myself that I can't love. And they're each saying that. And as they look at each other, they can show them little bits of love, and they can show them like animosity, and they can show them all of this other stuff. And as that unfolds, they are going to understand themselves better. They may not experience this in their lives, right, while they're still alive. They may not understand it while they're still alive. But they're exploring. And you don't have to know that. Before we knew anything about healing, we did things like this. Your dad doesn't have to know that he is seeing himself in his neighbor, because even though the Bible does say that pretty explicitly, people who read the Bible don't really understand that.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like the Bible says that. The Bible says, like, love your neighbor as you are, like as yourself, because he is yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the only reason you would do that. That's the only reason it's expressed that way. And yet your dad sees your neighbor as someone separate and as someone bad or as someone whatever, as someone wrong. Yeah. And all of that is because your dad judges himself.
Yeah.
And eventually when he accepts, when he can really see God in his neighbor, even though his neighbor is telling him he's not there, right? When he can see that, he'll realize that he is. And that, again, that might not happen for another 6 lifetimes. Mm-hmm. But this is him moving in a direction. And once you start moving in that direction, maybe you can turn around. But I do think that it steadily moves forward, even if it doesn't always look that way.
Well, that's very cool. I guess I've never heard that before, said like that. So thank you.
Yeah. And, and I do think that this is, remember, finding equality at the extremes. Your dad and his neighbor are at the extremes. Mm-hmm. But there's equality there. They're the same.
Yeah. It's so funny how, somebody said to me, say funny, cool, funny, interesting. I was like, oh, that's a great way to put it, because you're putting a positive spin on it. I'm going to keep practicing that. But yeah, when you start to see the irritations, like people that irritate you and that you're like, that person, I'm angry at them. And then you realize what's inside yourself that's bothering you because they're the mirror to you. It's so life-changing. It's just,
yeah.
Just observing all that.
What is it? Like, I know you're going to go swim, but I am going to being great that requires attention. Yes. So there is a verse, number 61, that is entitled Being Great. And there's a line in there that says, the greatest beings seek out those that can help them identify their faults.
Ooh.
They consider their enemy a part of themselves that requires attention. Okay, this is what your dad's going through, right? They consider their enemy a part of themselves that requires attention. Your dad isn't a great being, no offense, but he is, right? So he's not going to identify that. He's not going to actually see it that way. But he is naturally, because he is part of Tao, he is naturally seeking out those who can identify their faults.
Mm.
So he's part of Tao, regardless of him wanting to be or not, consciously or cognitively. And so he's going to do this. Now, if he did this with awareness, it would be like breaking an arm and putting it in a sling rather than breaking an arm and letting it heal however it heals. He's not putting this in a sling. He's just letting it heal. And that could bring up other trauma. That can bring up other things. And that can cause other problems. But it's still a healing practice.
Mm-hmm. This was very helpful. It adds another layer to things and another perspective. And thank you. I'm timing out, so I'm going to step down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I want you to go
swim.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to continue chatting about 61 just a bit. I appreciate you coming up. So all of these, like, this is what's so great about Tao. Like, and because it always can lead to the next thing, right? That's why there are these 81 verses. And it's not like, depending on your perception, right? We started talking about my friend in the bus. And then we talked to Julie. Or we talked to Julie about my friend on the bus. And then we talked to Stephanie about her dad. And that brought us to 61. And I'm going to read all of 61 just to end this off, just because I didn't want to just leave you guys with that line. But it's entitled Being Great. And what it says is, being great requires the ability to be humble, so as to receive that which is attracted with tranquility. In the, like in the story of my friend in the bus, you are receiving someone that's offering you to go first. Now, are you going to receive that with tranquility, or are you going to receive that with animosity? Okay. In terms of Stephanie's dad, he's going to receive a neighbor that is going to, challenge his beliefs. Is he going to receive that with tranquility, or is he going to receive that with animosity? Attraction is the most primal of expressions. To receive that which is attracted is to know oneself, meaning that attraction is the thing. This is law of attraction, right? It's the most primal of expressions. So you are always going to be attracting things. To receive that which is attracted is to know oneself. Why? Because when you receive that which is attracted, that means you know where that attraction is coming from. You are aware that you are attracting that. You're aware that your actions have attracted this. You have somehow attracted this neighbor. You have somehow attracted this person that wants you to get on the bus first. All great beings realize when they err. Having realized that, they admit it and correct it to the best of their ability. Meaning, if you attract something that you don't like, you've made an error somewhere in your thoughts. You've made an error somewhere in your actions. You made an error somewhere in your life. And so once you recognize, oh, you know what? I keep attracting this thing that I don't like. Where am I creating that? And what can I adjust in order to no longer attract this? And you correct it to the best of your ability. Then if the cycle happens again, you correct it a little bit more. And once again, to the best of your ability. And then we get into the line that I read, Stephanie, the greatest beings seek out those who can help identify their faults. They consider their enemy a part of themselves that requires attention. And so your enemy, the person that you're frustrated at or whatever, that's a part of yourself that requires attention. Now you have to be able to identify that and identify why you attracted this neighbor. Like if, it says, if you want to see something destroyed, first see it, first see it revered. Right. So you want your neighbor to move out, you better start to love him. You better start to appreciate him, because that'll be what sends them away. It's not like the more you hold on to the frustration between you and your neighbor, they're going to stick around longer. To be centered in Tao is to nourish all related things, not to interfere or meddle in the errors of others. So you let your neighbor be upset at you, but you don't have to be upset at them. Stephanie wrote me a note saying that her dad always comes up when she comes up with me. And, just like this one is saying, this 61, He's a part of yourself that requires attention, right? There's something there for you. All right, I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, I'm going to try and always remember, but I won't. So I just want your patience if I cut off, if I get cut off because of the internet and stuff. But thank you guys again for joining me. I appreciate it. I do have a Tao workshop. Anybody that I've spoken to or has bought my Tao, I'll be reaching out to and sending you the link. Otherwise, if you're interested in attending my workshop on the Tao Te Ching, which is going to be a little different than this, we're going to actually go into like the overarching kind of messages and how things connect. And we're going to do some probably Tao of the Day type things. I'm going to connect certain verses with certain themes. And if you are in the Chicagoland area, you'll be able to come to it personally. Otherwise, it is online as well. You can find a link to that in my link tree or on my website. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Martin John, and until next time, keep recovering yourself.